why cross-border cooperation is important and why border regions are important within the cohesion policy. We have this territorial driven strategic dimension, so we think territorial more than sectoral. So border regions are important because basically in Europe there are many border regions. Border region covers 30% of the EU population, 30% of the EU GDP, so it's a relevant piece of our European Union. We need to tackle these border obstacles with different tools than money. Money is needed, but it's not enough. It's really not enough, so we are developing other type of tool, because sometimes these border obstacles are a kind, legal kind, financial, and so on, and it's not just about putting more money. It's really finding changing mindset and finding other type of solution. Cross-thematic, horizontal, let's say, approach. So 2 years ago, the Commission adopted a communication, boosting cohesion and growth in border regions, where the purpose was exactly not about money, but how to work in a different way at Commission level between different services and in a, let's say, multi-level governance systems also with the national and regional authority and local authority, because we need all the system in place. So we identified 10 topics, let's say, where the purpose is really to work cross-sectoral. And one of those topics is health. Smaller number of policy objective for the future, in order really to have an approach that is more global and more flexible, let's say. In the cross-border context, we really would like to earmark some of this money, the future money of the program for cross-border governance. Cross-border governance could mean different things, but the idea is really to develop a little bit the capacity of the cross-border region to stabilize the cooperation and go beyond, let's say, the project. Cooperation has been recognized in this proposal for the future as a very important tool for regional development. So the idea here is that not Interreg, but the regional operational program are expected to identify in the future potential partner outside the country to work with, to develop initiative and measure in the priority that has been identified for those regional programs. This means that you people that works with cross-border cooperation, you can work in close relation with the mainstream program to develop coordinated action, to develop synergy, because cooperation cannot finance everything, especially when it's about, let's say, heavy kind of infrastructure.
So we used to say that the health systems differ from one country to another, but actually they face, all of them face very similar challenges. Our level I can only confirm because we are also looking at the new proposal, and it really opens, if it remains like this, opens way for more flexibility and more synergy more synergies between different funding possibilities. The problem is always that people are not really aware at the national and regional level about those funding opportunities, or they don't know the mechanisms, or they are used to one and they are not using the other one. So this is why we're developing this new project and one of the components is actually on the health maps, because this is nice to have, but not many countries are ready. I would say that very few are actually ready with health maps. There are problems with the data, problems with comparability. So this is a long-term process to develop it. So we would like to assist member states in developing this methodology for the health maps, and then to teach them somehow on how to use them, and then also to explain what are all the possible funding possibilities for health, including Horizon Europe, Invest EU, etc. And how, in a strategic manner, they can combine those funds. For example, Invest EU is loan-based, it's not grants, it's a different approach, but it is possible. So maybe part of the challenge can be covered through this fund, and it can be complemented by the funds. So this is our optimistic vision, that we will be able a little bit to put a structure to the challenges and to the opportunities that they're approaching. But we are in a constant cooperation with all the DGs. We are cooperating with DG Research on the Horizon Europe. There is a partnership on health being discussed. So there is no isolation, there is a cooperation.
The program has been very successful, also in terms of funding. We can say that there were 70 billion euros put aside for research, all type of research. Out of these, 10 billion euros go to health. This was the forecast. We don't know yet if we have exhausted that budget yet. In health, and this is what I would like to do, is like we are now zooming in. In health, we are specifically dealing with a societal challenge. It's called Societal Challenge 1, which reads Health, Demographic Changes and Well-being. And I'm working in that particular part of the framework program that deals with development, human development and aging. So when we speak about aging, I think I have to give you two definitions. At least for us in research, an older adult is such at 65 years. In some other parts of the Commission, old is equal to 50 years, especially when you hear about the silver economy. So for us, older adult, 65 years. Second definition is active and healthy aging. So for us, that means that it is not an older adult that has no diseases at all. That does not exist, unfortunately, or for a very small part of the population. So for us, this means that even with diseases, the person is still part of the community. The same thing with, we have guidelines in health. Where do they go after the EU project is finished? So promotion of guidelines to a higher level, going back to the member states and beyond. What about our fantastic research results? If we don't speak about them, and if there is no place to fill the gap after a result is produced, and then it has to be injected back. So the story of a strategic way to synergize is extremely important, because, and that's why I ask also who is a researcher here and who is advising researcher, because in the end, it's a question of investing in people, and people have to have the knowledge or ways to find the knowledge to advise the scientists and the users, and to maximize the results. Because in the end, again, it's the taxpayers' money, and it's important that it goes back to society.